The Denver Nuggets have decided to fire Mike Malone, their head coach, and their GM, Calvin Booth. Does this firing surprise me? I have to say, yeah, it does surprise me because Coach Malone had a lot of great success with these Nuggets. During his reign, they went to the playoffs 6 straight times, which was a huge I would say turnaround from when prior to when he was coaching the team, because prior to him coaching the team, they were struggling. They had no direction. They had no star. It was just like a few years after the Carmelo trade had went down. Those players they had gotten had now gotten old and stale, and they really had to rebuild the team. So Malone came in as their coach in 2015 when they were just a terrible team, and he turned them around very quickly in the next few years. Just they went from winning 33 games the first year to 40 the next year, and then 46 the third year, and then his fourth year they got into the playoffs. But he had a great turnaround. I thought he was a great coach in the sense that he was able to command respect in his locker room. He was a no nonsense type of guy. There are very few coaches in this league that can stand up to their star players like the way Malone has been able to do. Even in Sacramento, I remember hearing how DeMarcus Cousins, a guy who has no respect for just about anybody during his time when he was a young player, and it was Coach Malone, which was the only coach in his career that he had respect for because Malone stood up to him and put him in his place, and he respected that. So that shows you that Malone has gravitas. He's not scared to challenge his players, which I think is lacking with the majority of these current NBA coaches. They're just fearful of their players. They're not willing to hold them accountable. But obviously, the Nuggets have been struggling these last several games. They've been on a losing streak. Now, how much is that Malone's fault? Honestly, I don't put too much of the blame on him for their losing streak because of Malone. He had some bad luck. The Nuggets have been injured. They're battered. They're bruised. Westbrook committed some dumb mistakes that cost them to go on this long tailspin, I would say, of just losing these games. I don't really blame much on him. Just the team's roster's not good. That that was courtesy of the team that Calvin Booth built the last few years. I don't really know how much better the Nuggets could have done these last several games because they were playing with a depleted roster. After that Timberwolves game, they were spent and they lost the next day to the Spurs because, Jokic didn't play and their team was just really tired. It was a back-to-back. They lose to the Warriors the next game, and I thought that game was going to be a difficult game because the Warriors had been playing some great basketball, and the Nuggets didn't have Murray, and they lost that game. They lost a competitive game to the Pacers. That what this firing also shows to me that the Nuggets must know that Jamal Murray is not coming back for these playoffs. That they know it's pretty much over for him this season because it doesn't make sense to fire your coach with just like a week or two before the playoffs start unless you know something big is going on with one of your players. And I think they know Murray will not be back for the playoffs, so that's pretty much it for them. And I guess they just want to start the ball rolling quickly, or they wanted a scapegoat to blame for their failures. Now, I think it's easy to blame Calvin Booth for their failures also because he was a GM the last 2 years. And I would say he was unable to replace the key role players that the Nuggets lost from their championship run. They lost Jeff Green. They lost Bruce Brown. They lost eventually KCP last summer. And losing those three guys really, really, really hurt. But I don't know how much blame you can really put on him for that. In the situation with Bruce Brown, they got screwed by their cap. He was a unrestricted free agent in the sense that they couldn't match due to some weird cap rules, and I think they didn't have enough money to offer him, whereas he went to the team that could give him the most money, so they lost a key sixth man right there. Jeff Green had I think, had the same type of situation where they couldn't match what he's getting offered simply because they have bird rights on him. So they got screwed on that one. And then losing KCP really hurt. I don't know if that was a situation where they didn't have the bird rights. I think they did. And I guess he decided not to go with him, not to re-sign him, which was a huge blow, I felt. Granted, I think KCP struggled this year, but they really do miss KCP because I don't think Christian Braun is a legit starter. But I kind of wonder, in his decision not to re-sign KCP, did the ownership tell him that they're not willing to spend that money? And if the ownership tells you that, then you're pretty much fucked because it's really the ownership that's going to determine how good your team is with their cap restraints and their money. So I don't know how much the Canarco family was willing to spend on this roster outside of paying their main guys the money. That to me is a question. But this roster really needs a huge overhaul outside of Jokic. I think everybody is expendable. Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, just about everybody. They don't have no legit second star next to Jokic. I don't think Jamal Murray's a legit second star because he's always hurt. He's very inconsistent. So they need to just go for a massive overhaul right now and see what they can do. But I don't know if they told Booth he had permission to do that or what type of money restraints that they had on him. Like, are they willing to pay luxury tax? I know there's certain thresholds once you get to certain tiers in the cap. That we don't know. So how much you can blame on him, I'm not sure you can really put that much blame on him. But I think more so ownership for not having a vision where they wanted to go forward with this Nuggets team, what they wanted to do with how much money that they're willing to spend. I think this is really a deflection on their incompetence. And unfortunately, I would say Mike Malone took the blame for their incompetence for putting together the shitty roster. And you could say Booth has some responsibility because he didn't draft right. He didn't find guys he could have found in free agency that could have helped them on their roster. He didn't make these little moves. And like I said, I don't think he had any good draft picks. So all that comes into play. I think he made that mistake of signing that one guy. What was his name? Najee, some scrub that they overpaid for and didn't turn out well. I think they also gambled with Peyton Watson. He hasn't panned out the way they wanted it. So you could blame Booth to some degree for some of these moves that he wasn't able to find diamonds in the rough to replenish their weak roster. But I think overall this is an ownership issue thing, and their ownership is deflecting. It will be interesting to see who now becomes the head coach of their team and the GM. Now, it's an appealing job because you have arguably the best player in the world in Jokic to build around. He's still in his prime. I think Jokic has 5 great years left, so you have 5 great years to possibly build another championship roster. I think that could be very enticing for a GM candidate, for a head coach candidate. So that'll be interesting. I don't know who they're going to target right now, to be honest. But I think firing Malone was a mistake. I think he's a great coach because he can command respect in the locker room. So I don't agree with firing him. Whoever gets Malone next is going to get a great coach. That they're going to get an awesome coach because he commands respect, and that to me is the biggest thing when it comes to coaching in this league. So Malone will definitely get a job soon. I just wonder where he's going to go, but I wonder who they'll replace him with. I really don't know of anybody that comes to my mind, but they'll probably get a worse coach after him. Just my opinion.